Hi, everybody. Just quick content warning before we get started here. Because of the subject matter of this episode and the season, there's a lot of talk about sexual assault and rape, and also content warning for lots of talk about drinking and drugs, and it kind of all centered around the Greek life and Greek system there. It is kind of really peppered throughout the episode. But yeah, otherwise, enjoy. Hello and welcome in, all you O9ers, PCHers, Neptune Pirates, even though we don't go there anymore, Junior Private Detectives, and welcome to Rush Week and Life on Mars, the Veronica Mars Rewatch podcast where we go through episode by episode. I'm Brenton.
And I'm Emily.
And we're here to talk about Season 3, Episode 2, My Big Fat Greek Rush Week.
I have so many issues with this episode.
Okay. Yes, please detail and give us your background. Actually, we're going to send it over to our boots on the ground, our sorority correspondent.
I was a moderately proud Gamma Phi Beta. No tea, no shade against International, but let me tell you, like sorority, when I told people I joined a sorority my freshman year, people from my hometown said, "Excuse me?" No one believed me. Even my former dance teacher was like, "You joined a sorority?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I joined it because I wanted to have close girlfriends. And it was really hard to find people to make friends with in college when you don't play. Like, I don't have any special interests.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I took gymnastics. So, like, I met some people through, like, this gymnastics class I took. But even that is, like one of them was a TA, so it's not like I was going to hang out with them. And like one of the, you know what I mean? Like very niche people take adult tumbling. And not enough of them to make any sort of friendship circle. I think there were 7 of us in that class, and half of them were guys who didn't talk and just wanted to do parkour. Drove me nuts. Get out of my way, sir. I'm trying to do a pretty flip.
I didn't think about that, but that's definitely, right on the money.
And I mean, they were all nice, but like not, so I joined a sorority.
Right. They're more interested in jumping than making friends.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, they weren't. I mean, I'm not going to befriend people who jump off buildings on the weekends.
Run across rooftops.
I mean, like I'd be friends with them, but I'm not hanging out. Like they're not solving my problem of like, who am I hanging out with? And so I joined a sorority and I did Spring Rush, which was, I think, so when you rush, you pay to rush. Even before you get into a house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And when you rush in fall, it's like a pretty hefty fee.
Gotcha.
In spring, I don't think I had to pay because most of the houses, like if a house is full, they can't rush in spring.
Right.
So if they're at their capacity, whatever that number is, then they can't rush during that time because they have no spots to fill.
Yeah.
But any house that's had drops or seniors graduate or didn't get enough girls in fall or whatever it may be, then you can, they can do Spring Rush. At least that's how they did it where we went to school. And so I did spring and I picked my house. I made friends in that house very quickly. And I am very close to and love a handful of them very near and dearly. The rest of them, it's a house of 120 girls. I have nothing against them as people, but like, it's not a good idea to put that many people in a group together who don't share a common interest because there's nothing to bond over.
Yeah, that's true. And there's like a variety of
there's so many different personalities, and like there are so many people that I love that I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for that organization. So I'm very grateful to it. But sororities are weird. It's a weird concept. It's a weird beast, and then it's weird. It's different in every school you go to, and each house is different.
Yeah, learning that, even though it's just like, but you have one of those over there. It's just like, well, yeah, but
the one over there is significantly more popular. I used to go hang out at Cal Poly, and the house I was in was significantly more popular over there. And I never went to the house. I never met any of the girls. But because I said I was a GFI and then I went to UCSB, everyone was like, "Oh, she's cool."
Doors have opened.
I'm like, I'm just a drunk. Like, I'm not cool, but I can drink you under the table. Motherfuckers. It wasn't the most, And that has no reflection on the sorority and mostly to do with the friends that I still hang out with.
Right.
But it's like there's so many, you don't just like sneak in, like it's not like that. Like the way they portray the girls in the house is actually pretty accurate, like in terms of like how they actually rush them, except that like you don't have multiple girls to one new person, and there'd be like a system to like how she's meeting people. It wouldn't have just been like 3 random girls she talked to. And it's really interesting. And then the whole like party at their sorority house, like, you can't fucking party in a sorority house. We could kind of get away with it because we had apartments instead of like a big house, so you couldn't just like walk in. But even then, like we drank in the house to like pregame, and we weren't supposed to, but we didn't have like people over to drink in the house.
Yeah, I remember learning that fairly quickly, even though I was not part of the Greek system. It was just like, sorority houses are like, just locked off that's like for living and sleeping and like meetings, but like that is not for like bigger parties to invite like other frats or anything over.
Exactly. Or like we'd have like, like people could come over for dinners or whatever, but like, or like we had our study room that we like, our chapter room, we let people come study in. But like, you didn't just have random people. There was no like sanctioned alcohol serving in the house. And it's just, it was the whole way this was portrayed is very strange to me. And inviting frat boys over to like then like babysit girls is like, no.
Yeah, that's 101 right there. Do not like place them in the hands of a frat guy.
I never let because we called new girls babies. You weren't supposed to. That's hazing. But
really, calling them babies?
You couldn't call them babies because that was hazing.
Got it.
And there's so many rules around hazing that don't make any sense. You couldn't send your little on a scavenger hunt because that was hazing.
Interesting.
They couldn't work for any of their gifts. That was hazing. Like
Damn.
They couldn't like be asked to like sing the Greek alphabet or like stand on their head or whatever the fuck.
Singing the Greek alphabet much more safe
than standing on your head. I don't know. For me, I feel like maybe I could have done it. But I mean, we found ways around it. We had fun finds instead of scavenger hunts.
Oh.
It's a fun find.
That's pretty good.
You can ask for your basket at any time, but if you'd like to, you can sing the Greek alphabet. But it's just really weird. We would have never sent girls home with frat boys. We always I only once let a guy walk a baby home from a party, and it was because they both lived in the same dorm so he could get her in, but I made him come back after and report back to me that he dropped her off. And I was like, okay, like, is she in her bed? And like, then I like texted her in the morning to make sure she was okay. Cause I was like, you just don't know. Yeah.
Cause in the episode leaving her, it's like, you're going to wait with him until they arrive.
Yeah. There's a lot of handoffs going on here.
That's like it's a bad amount of time.
Well, and it's just like, you don't know. And even now, like if I had like who I am as a person now, I would have never let that guy walk that girl home, even though I knew he came back and,
Right.
But you just,
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Hindsight being, what it is.
What it is. And at that time, I was like, no, this pledge is very afraid of me. He will come back.
Yeah, right. But the organization itself, too. Like,
exactly.
You make this known, like, these are the rules. Like, you got to, like, at least keep an eye on them and don't hand them off like that.
Yeah, you don't hand people off like that. I mean, I'm sure there are some girls that would, and they always made me mad, and I always yelled at them. Because, you got the occasional pledge who was under 18.
Yeah. Right? Because, I mean, you come to school freshman year, don't have to be 18.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a very weird world, and we were very protective, regardless of, like, who you were, of our girls, because it's a reflection on the organization if something happens to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that was one of my problems with it as a whole, is like, you're trusting the lives of 18-year-olds with 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know who makes the decisions for like everything, or a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a really
which
fucked
at the
up
time
system.
is like, yeah. At the time, you're like, this is, of course, is how it is. Like, wow, power.
We're our own government. And then you're like, none of us have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. Not and a single one of us.
Yeah, even though she's a poli-sci major, I don't trust her.
Oh God, you never trust a poli-sci major. But yeah, it was very interesting. So I have a hard time with how the Greek system is portrayed in this, and then I also have a hard time with the Greek system because there is a lot of toxicity in it, and I do think I'm not opposed to their mentality of like in the episode where like the others, for lack of a better word, the GDIs, the goddamn independents.
Yes.
They were like, shut him down, and I'm like, yeah, probably.
Raise my hand.
I only dated G'd, so you better be a G'd.
Yep, indeed.
Indeed a G'd.
Yeah, I couldn't have rushed anything. That's not.
Well, no, I didn't trust any guy who could join a frat after I saw what they did to people, and I didn't even like see anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would have just said like I can't.
It's not cool.
Gotta go.
Dehumanizing, breaking people to build them is not how you build people.
No,
that is
awful.
inaccurate. It is a lie, and it is just manipulative, and it's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And it breeds toxicity.
Totally.
And it breeds that like you get to hurt people, and then
that makes them closer.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Brothers in pain and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a fairly shallow look at sororities because it's all the things. Of course, what it's meant to do is
stereotype.
Exactly, you're playing with the stereotype of the ditzy sorority girls that look like Stepford wives, but then at night they do like parties and things like that, and they break the rules. But it's turning that of like, oh no, but they're actually people too, a little bit, which is a good thing. But we'd kind of talked about it last, because I was like, oh, I feel like this is setting up a bad dichotomy, and you're like, no, this is more fairly realistic of like Greeks and non-Greeks like being like, oh, like non-Greeks being like, obviously like fuck these people in general, and sororities just kind of doing their thing.
Well, and especially women. I think the frat system is completely broken. I think that, I think by proxy, sororities should probably go with it. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't feel the need to preserve it, but I do think when I joined a sorority, I was picked on by the people in my lives that I had been friends with who were like, oh, why would you do that? Or like, you shouldn't have done that. Or like, like that's like, you're a sorority girl now, so like we can make fun of you, you know, like bullshit like that, where it's just like, I just wanted to have other friends because you guys weren't great friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure I mouthed off about sororities a decent amount, but like my biggest problem with like ever the like sorority system was just like the gatekeeping. Just like, oh, because I'm not in the Greek system, like I no longer like pass a bar to then like discuss or like have a conversation with you, which is how like a lot of like girls in sororities like ended up being. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whereas I had an adamant I don't date frat boys rule.
Exactly.
I was like, I will not talk to you. I will not acknowledge you. You may not look at me.
But yeah, like
now hand me that vodka. I'm going to stand on your table now.
But yeah, like in hindsight, what it is, that's not enough like for me to like harbor any resentment toward it. For like frats, it was like literally the threat of a like of like the hostility and the like toxic testosterone like being thrown in my face for not being in a frat, because like that's where it's like almost like slightly more dangerous of like getting into an altercation or a fight with like a frat guy, and then him having like 4 other people.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, like when you have to throw parties that only let in girls, what does that say about how good you are at getting girls, in quotes, getting girls, because I don't like using that terminology, but like, if you can't let other men in the room, obviously you have low self-esteem and you're not good at whatever you're trying to do.
Totally.
So it's all just toxic and gross, and we all just need to.
And then that's also really telegraphing. It's like I mean, it's like, oh, this is a
mating ritual.
Exactly. You are here to mate. And then like, obviously, like for certain like people going over, like that's like the intent. But, it's a little grosser that way.
Yeah, like we had to strategically plan our nights to like, okay, how are we going to get out of X situation? How are we going to get out of Y? Who's watching which person so that no one gets like taken upstairs or like convinced to do something they wouldn't normally do or whatever it may be.
Yeah, totally.
And like, I will say, certain fraternities had reputations for getting girls too drunk or potentially putting things in their drinks. And, well, we never tested anything. We can say with the utmost certainty that certain nights ended with our drinks, making us feel a little funny and us running away from the frat house because
Right.
the moment we noticed something was wrong, the red flag went off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I just, that was one of my near and dear friends who was like, yeah, I feel funny. And I was like, me too. And we're like, let's go. And then we got Freebirds, ate our weight in food, and spent the night being too fucked up together.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
Much safer.
The greatest possible scenario out of that.
Exactly. But like there was,
That's not on you.
there's a reason why they get that reputation. It's because some of them do it.
Yeah. Which is awful.
And that's what I think is interesting too in this episode. And as we get to it, we will, like how the woman who works at the newspaper is like, oh, we've had 3 or 4 reports of like being, what was it, being hazed or whatever it was, or at the sorority. And so like you never want to discount.
Yeah, I think it was sexual assaults of leaving that sorority's party.
I thought it was the whole thing where they were like, oh, there's the basement and they make them undress or whatever, or the 2-way mirror thing. Like all the rumors around Greek life and things like that, and like some of them are true and some of them aren't, but the rumors start from somewhere. So like it's never necessarily a bad thing to investigate where that rumor started and where it came from.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
But much like that rumor, we didn't have a basement, so there was nowhere to
right, no, be able
there
to
was
do
nowhere
that.
to hide.
Yeah. And in us G's, we invited everybody over, but that just meant that girls were stuck at like a 5-to-1 ratio.
Well,
but we had a great time. They come over, they can enjoy our alcohol, watch us play FIFA. It's great.
I had the best times at parties at your house, except for the one time a girl tried to kick me out.
Yeah, that was
we won't drop any.
No, it was just like, stop it. She yelled at me for letting people in my own house, and it's just like, what? Why? But yeah, I digress.
Like, excuse me, I'm dating that one. Who are you? Why are you kicking? My stuff's in the bedroom, so I'm gonna go in there.
There's gonna be chaos in my house. It's my house.
It's my problem. Let me have it.
Exactly. You just go over there.
But
yeah.
College was very, it's a very different experience for us than it was for Veronica.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, we get her to be, she's a freaking narc.
Well, she doesn't intend, she thinks she's narking for a different reason.
Totally.
She thinks she's helping. And I think that's what makes it such like an important message is like, ooh, when you get the facts, what do you like, how long do you sit with something, and like what do you do with it, and what do you do when it's wrong, and like how can you fix it, and how can you fix it?
Right.
So should we hop into the recap?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get off my sorority high horse.
No.
My soror horse? I don't know.
This is very applicable, so it's
yes,
very good to discuss this stuff.
So the episode starts with Parker talking to a cop because we ended the last episode with her screaming because her head had been shaved, so we assume she has been raped.
Yeah, I didn't. It's in the recap. She yells, "I've been raped," but
I don't think it was in the episode. Just
okay,
scream when it ends.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I don't remember that.
I think they do that sometimes on this show, but I couldn't be certain.
Right, where it's like they include those like clips that weren't actually in the original.
And so she's like, yes, hello, lady officer. I was at the Theta Zeta party.
Theta Beta.
Theta Beta. But it's there's something before it too, because it's like Pi Theta Beta. I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe it was like, so I thought originally what they had said was Theta Zeta.
I had written down Zeta Theta when she first said it.
Okay. Well, what did you hear? Laurel?
Yanny. But then I looked at the house and I think I wrote down it differently, but they kept saying only 2 letters and there were 3 letters in the photo.
Okay. Yeah, because I wrote down the house that the sorority house she goes to later, which maybe is not necessarily
You wrote
connected.
it down, but there were 3 letters in that house.
Right. I just wrote down the 2.
Which
so
2?
Theta Beta.
Oh. Were they the first 2 or the last 2?
I don't know.
You just picked 2 out of 3?
That's what they called them for the rest of the episode. They didn't say the 3.
The
They're
full
just
thing.
like, oh, like I'm going to Theta Beta.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We are at Theta Beta now.
Regardless, you need to practice the Greek alphabet.
I couldn't even do it. I know beta, omega, zeta,
You start like the regular alphabet. What would be your first one?
alpha,
Uh-huh.
beta,
Uh-huh.
delta.
Uh-uh.
Oh.
It stops being alphabetical.
Oh, well, okay.
No, wait. Alpha, beta. Alpha, beta, gamma?
Oh, boy.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Just gonna have to Google this really quick. And I mean, we can keep talking while
Yeah. Talking to the police officer, getting the report while, and she details that she doesn't remember anything, past a certain point in the night. She doesn't remember coming home, all that. Remembers waking up. Awful feeling. With a voiceover from Veronica of pretty much like corroborating. It's like, yeah, you know what happens when you wake up, even though you're drugged. And Veronica and Mac sitting off to the side feeling guilty. Veronica guilty because she walked in, and Mac feeling guilty for like slut shaming her. Just that Mac has no reason to feel guilty, but that's just like that extra thing. And neither does Veronica, because you just don't know when she's already back at the place. But then Lamb walks in being incredibly shitty and is like insinuating that, girls that report sexual assaults are making it up.
And he was hoping it was Veronica. He's like, oh, was it
Right.
you again? Because this would be your second cry
Yeah,
wolf.
as soon as he sees Veronica. Which, I mean, totally lines up with how police officers handle sexual assaults anyway. So that's accurate.
Yep.
Goes to interview her, and Veronica steps up.
Because he's being a dick to her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Condescending.
He's like, what time did you get back? And it's like, she was fucking drugged. She doesn't know what time she got back.
Right. And even opens with like, oh, yeah, feeling rough today, huh? And Veronica busts in and details her account of walking in and grabbing the tickets and hearing buzzing, but not necessarily putting anything together, just thinking it's, regular sex, and couldn't see anything in the dark, which Parker, of course, reacts to completely negatively, which understandable. You just went through some fucking hell, and there's like that a piece of information comes out that someone could have stopped it. Like, but you're not acting rational. So like, I completely understand her outburst and anger in this scene and just like devastation, because like there's this chance that it like couldn't have happened, that someone could have stopped it, and they didn't. Even if, it makes sense on Veronica's end to not do anything about it. Yeah. So rough. And Veronica feels fucking awful, of course.
Yeah, because she in quotes, Veronica let it happen, and it's fucking awful.
Yeah, on all sides.
Yeah, it's not a win. We cut over to Keith now. He's walking in the desert.
Yeah,
with his walking stick.
And he's in probably like hour 20 of his trip. He's starting to see some things, but he's come out like on the other end where he's has some revelations, and he's ready to take in this new knowledge with him. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, this was definitely like a chosen like do some acid in the desert kind of vibe.
Exactly. This is ayahuasca, but it seems like he's separated from his shaman, so like it's really dangerous to do that.
I mean, I was thinking that maybe like he wasn't separated from his shaman, and his shaman was inside of him the whole time.
Oh my God, the shaman was never there.
He was his own shaman.
So who gave him the ayahuasca?
I don't think he did any.
Oh, okay. Just dehydrated.
Wasn't it you that was doing the ayahuasca?
Oh, that's right. I was in hour 20 while we were watching this.
Oh God, no.
No wonder it's hieroglyphics on my notebook.
No, damn. You know hieroglyphics?
Not anymore.
So yeah, Keith is walking in the desert with a stick, and he's hot, and it's sunny, and it's bright, and he'd been shot at in the last episode. He looks rough because he feels rough because he was shot at. Then we go over to our sociology.
But he's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's walking with his stick, and his stick gets stuck in a bear trap. And he's like, oh, fuck.
Gets caught in a bear trap.
Yeah.
And so then we go to our intro to sociology class, which is Wallace and Logan and a bunch of other people.
Yeah. I was excited. I was like, yes, Wallace and Logan. But then they separate them for the rest of the episode, so it's like, damn.
Yeah, because I feel like they needed more together.
Mm-hmm.
That's my summary of this entire show. We needed more Wallace and Logan time.
Yeah, no, I love when they're paired off. Of Wallace just kind of like looking at Logan like, and Logan just like being himself.
And the teacher's like, yeah, at the end of semester, you have to write a 20-page paper. And I'm like, good God, for an intro to sociology class?
Right.
I don't think I wrote a single 20-page paper my entire college career.
This guy.
And I majored in English.
Yeah. Only people doing senior theses.
I think
had
I wrote
to write more.
12 at most, maybe 10 to 12.
Yeah. I think maybe 15 was my max. But yeah, that's good God. But this guy is a fuck.
Yeah, and he's
professor.
like, so you can either write this 20-page paper or you can sign up to recreate the Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah, I do want to.
The losing side, if you're a prisoner or a guard, they have to write a 10-page paper.
Yeah. So, in case anybody does not know the Stanford prison experiment, it's a famous social psychology experiment that was supposed to take place over 2 weeks, where psychology students or volunteers that signed up were split into either being a guard or a prisoner and were put into prison. There was no, like in this game, or not in this game, in this episode, there was no game behind it. There was no like winning sides. It was just they're supposed to act like guards and prisoners for 2 weeks, and then they were supposed to study and see how like people got into their roles. What does the power dynamics between these two groups, like what happens when these two groups interact, just based on these like perceived fake roles.
And they were all sociology students, right?
Yeah, I think they're all psychology students.
Psychology students, okay.
Yeah.
Which I think is a key red flag here. Psychology is a white male-dominated industry.
And it was run by a white male.
men. Mm-hmm.
Did you take any psych classes at UCSB?
No, because I already had anxiety, and so I did not want to self-diagnose.
That's smart. Mm-hmm. Very smart.
So people with mental health tend to gravitate issues or mental health struggles tend to gravitate towards learning about it because obviously you want to understand it better. But the danger in that is if you're not working with a professional while you are doing that simultaneously, which I was not because I was poor, is that you can then you can convince yourself that a bunch of things are wrong with you that aren't, and or like try to quote unquote fix yourself when like there's nothing wrong with you, or you're addressing the wrong thing, or you can't see something clearly because it's you. And I already had enough anxiety when I took my class on AIDS that I was like, you know what, I never need to take another class on diseases again.
Yeah.
And mental health and the human body in general. I'm just gonna like drop the whole subject.
Nope. Completely get it.
I took a class on rocks instead. It was very fun. I loved it.
I took the intro. I do realize I didn't like give the most important part of the Stanford prison experiment. It failed within 6 days. Mm-hmm. The guards really slipped in their roles. They were allowed, similarly like this, not to deprive them of food or like physically harm them, but they were allowed to like rattle them in all sorts of ways. And the guards like immediately like took on this like power responsibility and immediately slipped into it, of like just absolutely harassing these like prisoners and things like that. And the prisoners in turn like were like subjugated, like felt like submissive and things like that, and slipped into that role of being like completely powerless. And some students left early, but then they called it off after 6 days instead of 2 weeks, because of how poorly it went. And it's like widely criticized for being just all kinds of ethical issues, which of course like happened, and letting it go on as long as it did. And it's funny that in this show, they set it up as a game, like that they need to set up like an incentive to pit these two like groups against each other. When the Stanford prison experiment, there was no such incentive. It was just like two groups in perceived roles.
In a college class, you wouldn't get away with like everyone who participated would have to like win in quotes, like, and not have to write the paper.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's just like in real life, it was so much worse because they didn't have an incentive.
Yeah, there was nothing to trade.
Totally. And now to wrap back around to why I was asking you about taking psychology at UCSB, you would have been taught, as I was, by the person who put on the Stanford prison experiment.
Oh,
Dr. Philip
God.
Zimbardo. Mm-hmm.
I know the psychology program at UCSB is one of the best. Like, according to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a really, really great professor.
Yes, and I've heard really great things about that, which is why I really debated it. But I also was like, I can't. When I took what's the comm class that's very similar to psych? Like you talk like a lot about psych.
Oh,
one of them,
yeah.
87 or something random like that. I think 87 is math, something like that.
Was it the one where you're like, it's doing the studies? It's like putting on.
Yeah.
It's a research comm.
I was like, I could not do this because it makes the like existing into a game for me mentally, and it's like very overwhelming, and it makes me feel like if I make a decision it has to be perfect and it has to be strategic. And I couldn't absorb that for more than like an hour every week.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I've heard great things about that psych department and horrible things about that experiment.
Yes.
What did he say about it? Did he say anything about it?
Yeah, because he taught it about it. I mean, exactly. Like
he's like, it was awful.
Exactly. Like, obviously, like referencing a mistake, but like talking about the background of like what the goal was and things like that. So we watched like a little like short documentary on it and stuff.
Interesting.
So I mean, he's fairly open about that, but yeah.
I always wish I had, because I love psychology now, but at that time I couldn't have taken those classes.
Totally. Which is very good, and glad you knew that ahead of time. What Philip Zimbardo didn't do was run these annually.
No, yeah, okay, so that's the best thing. Like we learn, so they're like, okay, there's going to be prisoners, there's going to be guards, and I run this every year. Like it's just how I run this class. Right. I recreate the Stanford prison experiment because it went so poorly the first time that if I do it on a 48-hour window, maybe it'll change.
Exactly. So I don't know what he would get out of it. Of like, I guess just showing that like group, no matter what the group pairing is, like they'll automatically slip into this dynamic. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's interesting. So then we go back to Wallace's dorm. Veronica's laying on his bed. And she's like, I'm just wallowing, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Wallace is supportive of that. But then his RA comes in and he's like, there's been some safety changes because did you hear about that freshman girl who was drugged and raped and had her head shaved? And Wallace is like, yeah, man, we heard about it. Shh. We got a real sensitive one over here.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, my note on that is, this RA is so weird.
Very weird.
He makes me, like, they intentionally make this character uncomfortable, and it kind of annoys me because, like, I feel like I know a lot of people who aesthetically like appear that way, and they're not annoying, and they're not like this, and they're not niche in that way. Like, and it's just, I think it's really fucked up. It's like really like what you would consider like the stereotypical nerd. Like it's very like biased towards them or like against them, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. This nerdy guy who's like has a little bit more of like a like he's very careful with his words and like slightly more awkward. But
and that's it's like, oh, if you are a nerdy person, you have to fit into all of these boxes.
Yeah. You love Battlestar Galactica and you love sipping your tea
and having biscotti or like being part of all these programs or being an RA. Like it's just really interesting.
Yeah. Well, what show that did an actually pretty good riff on that nerd, because intentionally, American Vandal.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, no, that was the show. It was he was in the second season, but in the first season where they're trying to find out who drew the dicks on all the cars, and it's like,
oh,
do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
I recall. Yes. But yeah, so that's, we get there. So then we cut back over to Keith. He's walking in the desert. He finds train tracks. That's exciting because that means he can find a town. Because if you follow train tracks, they lead you to towns. And I know that because I've been on a fucking train before.
Yeah, I'd be fucking hopeless.
You wouldn't have thought, oh, I bet this would help me find a town if I walk in either direction?
I probably just would have crossed the train tracks.
Oh, honey.
And don't put me in the desert. Now I know. Well, actually, now you can.
Follow the train tracks. Either way, too, because you'll at least end up somewhere, like in a town.
That, like, makes sense.
Were you just like, oh, I wonder why you came across train tracks?
I just didn't
Didn't
like
even click
just
you?
didn't click at all. I was just like, oh man, Keith's in a rough spot, ain't he?
Oh, but a train runs through here. It must be a nice area.
Exactly.
We'll put some condos in soon.
Yeah, hopefully he finds an Amtrak and not just like a train that's like hauling a bunch of stuff.
Does an Amtrak run this line ever?
Exactly.
Got any sleeper cars? We cut back over to Veronica because she's going to go to the newspaper because she is going to sell the photos she takes and get paid by the newspaper so she can have her work study job.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey.
Great idea.
Yeah. In high school, they did not pay me for this, but in college, they will. Amazing.
Hell yeah.
And so the woman who works at the newspaper, who runs it, the student, I assume, she's like, okay, yeah, like these pictures are great. I love these. Haha. There's a picture of you like a cheerleader that was mean to you picking her wedgie. So like you kind of already get this like girl on girl hate crime starting from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And Veronica's like, yeah, that girl toilet papered my house. Like, and so you're like, we get it. Like, this girl was not nice to you. And like, there's no right or wrong. And if that's where it ended, it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is by men for the male gaze, we have to continue with the girl on girl hate crimes. So the newspaper woman is like, yeah, we need someone to get behind the Greek curtain and like rush the Greek sorority house because we've had 4 reports that they take their new initiates downstairs and they make them get undressed in front of a 2-way mirror and the boys from the other frat that's their brother frat watches.
Yeah.
Which is just weird.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine why the sorority themselves would do that. It seems like they would be like, God, we hear that the frat has 2-way mirrors rather than we are setting up the 2-way mirrors ourselves to like for their enjoyment.
Well, and
I guess other than like a power move, but
yeah, and I don't know. I just the whole thing's weird.
yes.
And so then it's like, okay, like go do Rush, and that's when I was like, well, in real life, Rush you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So like, who's footing the bill? Is the newspaper?
Yeah, I mean, hey, she got to do dirty work. She going undercover.
Second of all, she'd have to rush all of the houses. That's how Panhellenic works. You can't just go to one house unless you do spring, but this is fall. Mm-hmm. And I assume most schools are the same way. Some schools you can't rush in fall and they only do one big rush in spring so that the students like adjust and then rush.
That actually kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that's how they do it in the South a lot too.
Oh, okay.
Where the Greek houses are a little more established and a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I think it varies by school. I have no fucking idea like where they draw that line and why.
Right.
But yeah, so weird stuff. And then they're like, yeah, and they have all these secret parties which with alcohol and boys and all that. And I'm like, man, you weren't allowed to talk about any of those things when I was in Greek life. No booze, no boys, no barack, no brands. And there's you had the B's. I think it's 5 B's.
That doesn't quite work as well when you have Trump in there.
And they know now it's like booze, boys, the bad world we live in.
COVID.
I mean, you have to talk about COVID. It's the elephant in the room.
That's true.
Brands.
Or elephant on Zoom.
What was the other one? I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But, I like this newspaper in theory, doing the dirty work. Mm-hmm. Like that I think it was the University of Florida that exposed that they did not report that the football team had coronavirus outbreak. Amazing.
Yeah. Like.
Hell yeah, student paper.
You go, Florida. You go. I mean, student paper, not Florida the state.
Exactly, no.
Florida the state, we need to talk.
Yeah, and do not go to football games.
No, don't. So then we cut over to Parker. Parker's like, hey, Mac, my parents are going to take me home. And they're going to come get me because they told me I was too immature to go to college anyway. And I guess they were right because look what happened.
Yeah, brutal.
Which is sad.
Yeah. And Parker's just like, I need a friend right now because my parents suck, which we'll find out later, of course. But so
then we go to Rush. And Veronica arrives wearing her floral print dress. She fits in beautifully.
Her hairband.
Well, and I mean, so you have to think this was like what, 2007, 2008?
2006, 2007.
Yeah, like I had an outfit like all of these girls, I'm sure, at some point for like Easter or church or like Christmas or something.
It does look like Easter.
It does look like Easter.
That's what it makes me think
So
of, Easter.
much of
And this is also in San Diego. So
well, and so much of Sorority Rush is like, so different days you have to wear different outfits normally. It's not just like a one-day thing.
One day's your favorite jersey.
Exactly. And you have to buy, like, some things have to be matching and some things have to match these certain color swatches, and you have to wear 2 of the 3 colors. Or
Goddamn.
it's a fucking nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. And then one year, you usually get the same, like, extra colors every year, and then one year we we different color and we had to do all the shopping. Oh, God, it was so stressful.
This is my nicer pair of shorts.
We had to wear, the first day it was always white shorts with white wedges with like whatever shirt we had, like the shirts that all the sororities had that matched.
Oh, okay. I was they let you just pick a shirt?
No. They had like a specific shirt for us.
Mount Nasty.
And then it was like, yeah, exactly. I'm wearing my political attire. They said we couldn't talk about it. They didn't say we couldn't wear.
I'm just gonna point at it.
And then you had to wear like a different day. You wore like one year it was like blue and white were our extra colors. There was cobalt, I think, and white, and you had to have like this very specific shade of blue. And someone was in charge of making sure, like before Rush even started, that all of your colors matched, because if not, you could get in trouble. It was just a fucking
color
nightmare.
Guard.
And then a different night you could wear a different color, and then on the last night you had to all wear black
for the robbery.
Well, that was for pref night, and that was the night we sang, which is what this sorority is doing when you enter.
I looked at you and you're like, we sang, but not at Rush.
Well, yeah, Rush, but not so
open floor.
No, you want to know how we invited people
house.
in? So like the first day, I think they all walked up to the door, but then like the day of house tours, you were given a list of girls that were coming to your house for each time and each party. So each girl was given a name, and then you had to go pick them up at the door with a pickup line. So, for example, because it's house tours, ours were suites. So, hey, Brenton, do you want to come join the suite life with Gamma Phi Beta? And then you'd come up to me.
No.
And I'd walk you around the house. Or life is sweet with G Phi B.
Does everybody just rhyme here?
And if you forgot a girl's name, like if you went up to the front and you forgot to like what name you're supposed to say, you're supposed to say your best friend's name and then go to the back and like pretend like you were getting a new name and then like find out the name from the woman who's running it for you so you can do
really
it again. Good. I never forgot a name because this bitch never forgets a name. But I always thought I was going to.
Vanessa. Amanda.
Well, you had to go, like someone in the back had all the names who was like not doing the rushing part, but it was hilarious.
Right. Fantastic.
Or like every now and then I'd get a name that I was like, I can't learn how to pronounce this in 3 minutes.
And it's written down on a paper without any
phonetics. And I'm like, I can't look them up. I can't look up how to say this. I'm not allowed to even have my phone right now. Right. Like, and I'm not supposed to keep this piece of paper.
Yeah. But they don't take your phones on the way in.
Oh, from the girls?
Yeah.
No, I think they give their phones to their rogams. I'm not sure.
Because it's just for the invitations for the one they like.
Yes.
Right? Invitations.
So they because they just do whatever the fuck they want here. They don't have to run anything through any Panhellenic.
Right.
They're like, we're gonna steal your purse when you come in.
Yeah. And Marjorie, I think I had that right.
Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. I had the credits up. Do you know who? Apparently, Rochelle Lefebvre.
I don't know.
Who plays her. I didn't recognize anything she was in. Marjorie. Just kind of steals her away from like 2 girls. And it's a little bit more like Veronica's Speed. So it's like, oh, here's a foil for her where she can like access like that. This is like a different, there's a variety of people, not just like the stereotypical ones that met her at the door.
I assume she was the president. From like how they set that up, but I don't know. But I will say that like while we did sing on occasion, like they were doing covers of songs and you make it about the sorority. So Kristen Chenoweth allegedly was a Gamma Phi Beta.
Oh.
So we would do this god awful cover of For Good from Wicked.
Amazing.
I don't know. You've heard me sing. Like, would you say
gorgeous. Give them a little bit.
So For Good is a song for people that can go very deep and very high, and because it's a Kristen Chenoweth and an Idina Menzel song. I am neither of those. I am neither of those. And neither were most of the women in my sorority. I mean, there were some girls that could sing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like instead of just having the ones that could sing, they had us all sing to make it sound more full. And I never understood that because then my friend Lisa and I would get the giggles because like we were both like, for good. One time I was rushing a girl and they stand next to you while you sing. And I was like, are you a good singer? And she was like, no. And I was like, me either. Do you want to hear me? And then we started singing.
Amazing.
Because I was like, how can I make this less awkward? Because it's awkward.
Yeah.
It's awkward to have a group of girls sing at you.
Yeah.
And I think like every house does weird shit like that. I didn't pref anywhere else, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But usually you pref 2 houses if you do like formal rush. So you see the weirdness of multiple locations.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. So I get it. And some sororities like do like that full like song and dance number when you get in and stuff like that, depending on, I think once again, it's more of like a South thing, but not us.
Yeah.
We were not skilled. We just walked upstairs backwards in heels.
Ooh, fun. It's like you're being rewound.
She also meets the house mom Karen, which like is allegedly like one of like part of the house. And like,
yeah, it seemed like she was very
usually
part of rushing and everything.
Yeah, the woman that lives in the house is usually not the chapter advisor. It's usually someone else. So sometimes it's a woman who may have been affiliated with your organization, but oftentimes it's not. For example, ours was a lady named Anne. She just lived there. She wasn't a G5. She's great though. I loved Anne. She's my favorite person in that sorority. It's not 100% true, but
Right, yeah, of course.
We loved Anne. But yeah, it meets house mom Karen. Just some weird shit. Weird shit's going on over there in their rush system.
Yeah, I understand.
And then we do the Stanford prison experiment.
Yep. And I did want to, I forgot to make notes. So I'll bring up a couple guest stars we got coming in here. So the professor is Dan Castellaneta, who's like just in everything. Yeah. Then one of our prisoners is Sam Levine, so you might know from Freaks and Geeks. If you like Doug Loves Movies, he's all over that. And just a garden variety of things. Inglourious Bastards, he was in there. And then we get Ryder Strong, who is just the worst person ever. But you remember from Boy Meets World.
Yeah. Who was a significantly more likable character in Boy Meets World.
Yeah, my God. God, what was his name? Sean Hunter.
So our guards are Wallace, Sean, and some other random people we don't know.
Yes. The only one that ever comes up is the woman, and she seems to be dating one of the prisoners.
But she remains nameless.
And same with him.
So then we have prisoners, which are a myriad of students we don't know, and Logan.
Yes.
And
Sam Levine.
Who looks at Logan and is like, you know what? Let's put this kid where he's like gonna listen to other, like you were just asking for a fist fight.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he did it by his social security number.
I know, but it's just, that's also weird. I don't like that. He's like anyone with their social security number that ends in an even number, step to the front.
Everybody just say it out loud right now.
The whole thing.
Yeah. We'd love to hear it.
What letter does it start with? What letter? What number does it start with?
Letter.
Your social security number doesn't start with a letter?
See, that's how he tricks them. It doesn't start with a letter. It's a number. See, here's mine.
Oh, running
just
a
like
scam.
Just like they do at the end there.
What if they didn't know their social security number? Did you think about that?
Oh, yeah, they're fucked.
Like, I knew mine, but I don't know if I knew mine that well in college.
I did.
Probably once because I'd filled out my paperwork for applying to colleges.
Yeah, and I did. Yeah, there's that too. And then I took classes at the community college. I took 2 classes.
Ooh.
And so I had to know like my social security number for a lot of stuff there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, the class breaks up into their groups. They're given their outfits, and then immediately Mr. Boy Meets World becomes a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know his name, so I wrote down Boy Meets World at first, and I'm like, oh God, in my notes this is gonna be awful. I can't write this every single time.
So I wrote BMW.
BMW, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. I only wrote it once, so
BMW.
I didn't. And then I was like, I really hope I remember what that acronym is for.
I underlined Boy Meets World so I'd remember.
Oh, that's smart. I play fast and loose with my notes. Like, yeah.
But yeah, the prisoners are given an address, and they have to hold on to that address for
Yes.
48 hours.
And if they want the prison experiment to end, they just tell the guards the address, and the guards are trying to get it.
And then Hunter immediately starts picking on Sam Levine, Horshack.
Who's like actually his friend.
Yeah, that ending,
It's
like
weird.
Yeah, because then it's also this weird dynamic too, where he like Hunter is not. I don't know what his character's name in the show. I'm just going with his Boy Meets World character name.
Not even Sean, just Hunter.
Hunter. They could just call him Hunter in the show.
Yeah, I think so. I was just saying, wasn't his real name Sean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the end, like he's not there at class, and like Horshack is taking notes for him, but Wallace like gives him this look of like,
"What are you doing?"
Yeah, like okay.
Yeah. So
he made you wet your pants.
Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. So then we go back to the desert, and Mr. Cormac Fitzpatrick, who shot Kindle.
Yep.
He steps into the bear trap.
Yep. Trying to hunt the most dangerous game, and he gets snared.
Exactly. I had written down whichever Fitz that just was got bear trapped. And then I was like, I think it's Cormac.
Just Fitz.
So then we cut over to Veronica. She finds flowers in her car with a note from the sorority saying, "Hey, come back tonight. We're having a party dressed to impress."
PRD.
Then we cut back to the brothers, or the Fitzpatricks. Liam finds Cormac in the trap. Liam shoots Cormac.
Yep,
it's really quick.
Because I wrote down a line of notes. I wrote Liam comes to kill Cormac, and then as soon as I finished writing the note, he'd killed him. So then I put an ampersand and does.
And then Keith sees a town.
Yes, but it did at least clear up some confusion that I had from last week. It's like, okay, so if Vinny is working for Liam, what is the connection with, like, is Cormac working with him and that's why he killed Kendall? It's like, no, they're just all competing for the money.
Then we go to the sorority house. There's a party.
Yes.
We're like, oh, cool. They take us into, it's really quiet when you walk in by the staircase, and then you open this giant door, and there's a party in their study, it looks like.
Yep. Very soundproof.
Yeah, it's a very soundproof room. It's pretty great. So they're like, yeah, these boys are the Pysigs. They're a brother frat. I know some places do that. You have like a brother or sister frat. We did sister sororities like every quarter. I think it changed, and then we'd have them over for dinner, or they'd have us over for dinner.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
like, we'd always invite them over, and not all of them reciprocated or would even engage.
Rude. That sucks.
There were some that were very good about it.
Yeah.
I feel like Tridelt was one of the ones that was always good about it. Like we always, and like AKO, I feel like we always had like great things with them. But I don't, and I'm sure some of the other ones did too, but I remember one of them, and I couldn't even tell you which house it was, that was just like, no thanks.
Like, oh.
And you're like, I don't think we're allowed to say no thanks.
Right. This is an option?
Yeah. Excuse me.
I've done this a while ago.
But I also don't know what happened. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. I was not part of organizing that.
Right.
I was usually sent, if we had frats over, to go bring them back over to the house, because I was really good at not losing people. So I think it's that teacher thing.
That is a good skill.
Yeah.
I've seen it in action. Yeah.
I can find people in a crowd too.
Exactly. And my friends try to run, and you're like, oh, we got a runner.
Sit.
Yeah. Where you going?
You better go get that one.
Come back.
We'll leave you.
Yeah.
I will leave you here.
Exactly.
I will take your house keys and I will leave you.
Hands off the radio.
Oh God, couldn't control that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But yeah, so the frat boys are there, and they're like, let's grab you a panty dropper shot. What's a panty dropper?
I don't know.
It was green. It looked like antifreeze.
Yeah.
I was like, you shouldn't drink that.
Don't drink it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what a panty dropper is, but it's probably something.
I'll look it up. But so then they're like, here's one of the pledges. He's bartending, and lo and behold, it's
Dick. Yeah, they're all dressed like Chippendale dancers, but they're walking around with trays, and of course, Dick is like very in his element, because like this is what he's lived for, and we know those people like Dick that were like, yes, finally I can join the frat, and is absolutely bewildered that Veronica is there. And it's like, oh, she's rushing. And Dick is like continuing like, this would never happen. What are you doing? And Veronica is trying her best not to have Dick blow her cover, of just being like, oh, you're so funny, Dick. Ha ha ha. And then he's just kind of like, well, okay.
So this recipe on cocktailbuilder.com for a liquid panty dropper. Are you ready? I'm going to vomit.
Okay.
Gin, vodka, triple sec, orange juice, pineapple juice, coconut rum, cranberry juice, and peach schnapps.
Fuck that.
And then there's a couple of different ones. Like I don't really know.
So it's just
vodka,
like
beer, tequila. So it's like, and then with cranberry juice and a maraschino cherry. Oh, lemonade and cranberry juice.
Jesus.
Yeah, so they're all different colors. So I don't really know if there are rules on
It's
this.
pretty much you just mix a bunch of alcohols together and then add some like thing to sweeten it up, and yeah, that makes sense.
Ooh, this one sounds good. It's just vodka, blueberry schnapps, and cranberry juice.
Oh, there you go.
Like that one's tolerable.
That's a normal. Yeah, that's a
I mean,
normal amount.
I'm not going to drink any of these tonight or probably ever, but if I was going to pick one, it was that last one.
Exactly. I prefer a boxer dropper.
What's that?
It's like when you it's
like a slice of pizza and a beer. It's when you take a Tums because you can't have.
That's the unbuttoner.
The unbuttoner.
Yeah, it's because the zipper's still up, but the button's just open.
Is that after the game?
Exactly.
God.
Yeah.
What's a Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah. You throw some wings in there. It's called an early nap.
But yeah, regardless, yeah. So then introduces her to the other guy, the frat president. He's like, hey, I met this girl, Chip. She accused me of rape. Veronica's like, hi.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, remember me from last season?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, you're still doing shady shit, Chip. So.
Yeah, Chip, you're weird. It's fine. So then Veronica fakes drunk to, find out, like, how do I fast track my way to, like, Hazingtown? Yeah. And she sees the security camera in the corner. So then she's like, well, maybe these people are watching. So she gets in the camera and stands on a chair to, like, get attention. But also, I do have a question. So, of course, this is done by the male gaze. So there's a scene where she's dancing in the middle, and then the other girls dance on each side of her to like, look, we're like, it's cute. But like, no one else is dancing.
No.
Why?
Everybody is just standing there.
I've never been to a frat party where no one danced.
It was very funny. It was just
and like no one stood in the middle. I think that's the weirdest part. It's like everyone just got drunk by the walls.
It looked like a middle school dance.
Yeah. I've seen less awkward middle school dances.
Yeah.
My middle school had 30 kids in my 8th grade class. We had the entire fucking gym, and I swear to God, it looked better than that.
Yeah, I'd say about an hour into ours.
Yeah. An hour?
Yeah, it took a while for kids to,
I
get
think
into it.
Even though it was like middle school and everyone was awkward, like because it was 30 kids and at least like 20 of them had gone to school together since kindergarten, you can only feel so awkward for so long before you just kind of give up.
Yeah. We just hadn't like not had dances, so I think like everybody was like atrophied of like, what do we do in this situation? And then eventually,
Well, and you're not allowed to grind, and that's the only thing you'd seen on TV.
Yeah, true. But then, yeah, it ended up just kind of being a big dance circle and like kids running around, jumping around, yeah, and kids being like, "Wow, he's so good at dancing."
Yeah.
She's a star.
Yeah.
But yeah, not here. It is just Veronica making a fool.
But doing it pretty well. Like, that's pretty hard to
I know.
fake drunk and be silly.
It reminds me of Other Guys, where Mark Wahlberg continues to do a series of things that he learned ironically. This is what that reminds me of.
I love it. So then they're like, hey, Veronica, like, get down from the chair. We're going to have you, like, we don't want you to lose points with the girls because we really like you.
Yeah, because Marjorie, like, it's like, hey, get down here. Of like, get down. So, like, it looks like, oh, come on. Like, she's actually really good at handling drunk people, of course.
It is the one thing they teach you.
Yeah, she's
I mean, by exposure or by sheer, like, frustration.
Yeah. It's like, hey, come with me. And then they all go outside with, it's like her, Veronica, and Chip. And it's like, hey, so we don't want you to lose points with the girls. You're a little too drunk. You're like, your night's over. Chip is going to sit with you until the campus pickup comes by.
Yeah, until your safe ride comes.
Safe ride. Thank you.
And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm heading back inside because, I got things to do.
It's really weird. The whole thing is weird.
Yeah. Covered that at the beginning, but yeah.
And so then she's like, I'm going to pretend to throw up in the bushes so that Chip will leave me alone because vomit is the new mace, which I did love that.
Yeah.
That is one of the things they teach you as a girl. If some guy's being creepy to you or like trying to like, or like actually throw up or like pee yourself or do whatever you can, like get out of it because most people will be grossed out and will let you leave.
Oh, yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
So, you do what you got to do. And then we cut back over to the prison experiment.
Keith. So Keith arrives at the sheriff's station, looking like he's out of Twin Peaks. You haven't gotten to that yet. But it's in the return. And it's like, someone's been shot. I can take you to where it is.
And then we go back to the experiment. And what's his name's being a right dick.
Yep. BMW, aka Hunter.
Yeah, and he makes the other kid pee his pants because he won't let him go to the bathroom by himself.
Same aka Horshack. Yeah, and is pee shy.
Yeah, he's pee shy. I have that before Keith. Oh, and then Keith and the sheriff go back to the house. There we go. Yeah. That's why.
But real quick on the scene is like, lets them all go to the bathroom at the same time and then is yelling at Horshack because he can't pee and starts gay bashing him. A real slippery slope till we start getting into, other slurs and things here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is where we first start with him being even worse.
Mm-hmm. Then Keith and the other sheriffs are looking at the house and they're like, how do you know this happened? And they're kind of really skeptical in Keith. And then they find some blood and it's on a painting. And Keith is like, something makes sense here.
That looks interesting.
That painting looks familiar.
The cover of the painting. So the painting is unharmed.
There's a cover on the painting. It's like in a frame or like glass covered.
Yeah.
So then Keith comes home.
And just wanted to mention that Veronica, when she gets picked up for her safe ride, it's by one of the feminist protesters.
Yes.
And they kind of have a altercation, a discussion back and forth, where she's like, the protesters, like, I can't believe that, you girls like got like
you get all drunk and then you put yourself in these situations basically.
Yeah, it's like really blaming them.
That's victim blaming. We're not into that.
Yeah, totally, which absolutely sucks. Mm-hmm. And I doubt this analog in real life would be that way.
No, and I don't think that any woman who's like dedicating themselves to like a feminist movement would be also then like slut shaming girls for like and like shaming girls for like going out and drinking and partying, because like there is no way that it is your fault if someone takes advantage of you.
Yeah, totally.
It is not your fault.
Yeah.
And you should not, I mean, unfortunately we do, but you should not have to live your life on edge because of the fear of what men will do because you decided to have a good time.
Totally. Yeah. And I think maybe they would be like anti-sorority as like just the establishment. Maybe
or like that they're like that they are associating with the frats, that they let the frats come over, that they hang out with the frats. I could see that. Like, how dare you associate with the people that are hurting people that we assume and who have such a sexist culture.
Right. But like, this is just like, I can't believe you get drunk and hang around with boys.
Yeah. Which I mean, like,
come on.
I spent a good 4 years getting drunk.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, hey, you should be careful because boys are fucking awful, which we are.
Well, yeah, like if it was something like that, it's like, hey, like be careful. Like you might want to watch it just because of what's happening. It'd be a very different conversation than like, how dare you? Yeah. Which I still think is blamey. Like I still think it's inappropriate, but it would be less inappropriate. Totally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
Like, well, unfortunately, no one's gonna watch out for you. So
no, but yeah, this is definitely like, coming down hard on her for like. That it's like somehow her fault.
Yes. Keith comes home. He is sitting in the living room and Veronica gets up in the morning and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Uh-huh.
You scared the shit out of me. And he's like, I fucked up. I did something and someone got hurt. I made a mistake and someone got hurt.
Yep. Pretty fucking broken up because Kendall got killed.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then walking in the desert for God knows how long.
Yep. Well, but in his defense, Cormac would have killed her anyway.
Yeah, totally.
But the brother, that's where it gets messy.
Mm-hmm.
So then he doesn't know. I guess he doesn't know if like Cormac was also working with Liam or like what.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he knows that Cormac was killed.
Yeah. We cut back over to the experiment. I wrote, "This guy is awful," because he's just
anti-Semitic.
Being a dick. Yep. We cut back over to Mac and Parker.
Oh, I did want to mention Logan fucks with him, and he still goes after Horshack, because he can't have power over Logan.
Yeah, you can't pick on someone who's literally bigger than you and
Totally
doesn't give a fuck.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are you gonna do to him?
Right.
His dad murdered his girlfriend.
Right. You can survive.
And tried to murder his current girlfriend.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, he's got a lot going on.
Think he'll be all right.
I feel like his therapist should have really written him out of this assignment. Like, Logan, maybe you should sit this one out. But he doesn't go to a therapist.
Yeah.
No one goes to therapy in this show until much, much later.
Yeah. A decade passes.
I'm just saying, if something awful happens, even if you don't feel like maybe it's going to stick with you forever, like, it's always nice to talk to a professional about it. Mm-hmm. There's no shame in talking to a professional and just making sure that, like, you're okay.
Definitely.
And you have tools for when things get hard.
Absolutely.
We cut back over to Mac and Parker. Mac has a hair extension that is very visible that really distracted me. Because it's like a clip-in and like it's clipped to go down, but her hair's pulled up. So you can see the bar of it.
Oh, interesting.
So like, yeah, it's funny too because then like Parker's trying on wigs with her mom. So I'm just like, was this intentional?
Mm-hmm. Is this just like a weird thing?
Yeah, like did this just happen?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal, but it made me laugh. So then Parker's mom is like, you should get a really boring plain wig because you don't want to stand out because look what happens when you stand out. Which is sexist and
absolutely, yeah.
Up.
And then gaslights her. It's just like,
see, you shouldn't have come here because like this. We knew bad things would happen to you if you left home. You're not a big girl.
Yeah, and does it off of that she doesn't pick the wig that Parker that Parker's mom likes. So because Parker picks a different wig that other than the wig that Parker's mom was saying, it's just like, well, this is why.
Well, no, because she asked Mac. She's like, Mac, what do you think? And she's like, see, you can't even make a decision for yourself. This is why. Yeah. And it's because she wasn't picking what her mom liked. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's weird. So then Veronica had called she'd called the newspaper people and were like, hey, like I'm not finding anything. But like the Safe Ride Home cart like gave me a ride. Do you think it was the same one that gave Parker? Like, is there a log? And she's like, I've got a friend over there. I'll call her. And we find out that Wallace's RA was the one who drove Parker home. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And she's like, and Veronica arrives on his doorstep of like, hey.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Why didn't you say anything?
Uh-huh. And he's like, I didn't know Parker was the one who had been hurt, or else I would have. I would have gone to the police and told them everything. And I'm like, okay, fair. He offers her a biscotti. And then another girl helped him bring her into her dorm because she was so fucked up that they had to carry her, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, there was someone else also in the cart, too.
Yeah, like there's someone else can corroborate this.
Yeah.
She checks with them, and it's true. I don't remember anything else coming from that conversation, right?
No.
So then Veronica goes to Theta Beta. She's like, oh my God.
Real quick. Sam Levine Horshack comes back from solitary confinement. And Logan's like, hey, like, great job on not cracking. Like, you did so good. And it's like, I almost forget the address. And then Horshack says, like, the address. And Logan's like, no, that's not the address. It's this. And then the other like people are like, yeah, it's this address, and like tell him an address. Like, so they start planning a fake address in his head. Mm-hmm. Because he's like, totally makes sense.
Yeah, he's gonna crack.
Yeah, you're getting picked on this much.
And so we go to Theta Beta. We're talking to the house mom, Karen. She's like, I know you can't talk to the girls while they vote, but I can. Like, and I don't think you've got anything to worry about. But really, Veronica's there to get sneaky. She wants to get keys to... She gets sneaky. She gets sneaky. She wants to get the keys so she can see what's in, like, some of their secret hidden rooms and all that shit. And we noticed that there's a dog bed in the bathroom of the house mom's bathroom. And she's in like her quarters. And then the cameras are on the TV in there, so you can see like where all the security cameras go. And Karen's like, yeah, we all get too drunk sometimes. It's fine. Which I'm like, that's chill.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like, yeah, that's probably how like Anne responded to most of us. She's like, yeah, but they all have boys over. Like, how would you pick one to get in trouble?
Yeah, pretty much.
I remember she had
It has to be obvious.
She had this joke where one of my friends like only dated blonde guys. So she was like, if it's blonde, then it belongs to this person. And I was like, oh, okay, for sure.
True.
Fact. Every time she was right. But you know, whatever. So Veronica then runs into... Oh, no. So Logan and the prisoners, they break out.
Mm-hmm.
They go to get some food.
Great escape.
Yeah, they do a great escape. They climb out the window. Well, two of the guards that were supposed to be watching fall asleep.
Yes.
Wallace and the girl who's dating the guy who's a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
Who they both don't have names.
I wrote girl. Wallace and girl.
Woman.
Apologies.
She's an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest pet peeves is that we refer to women as young women when I'm like, you're like, they're an adult. We don't refer to men as young men. Rarely, like at the same age.
Yeah. Not as frequent for sure.
It's not as, yeah. It's really gross. And they do it to women a lot. Like I would still be called a young woman, but you wouldn't be called a young man. It's gross.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I might only because I have baby face, but otherwise.
Well, okay, yeah, because they thought like, oh, he's trying to get into that rated R movie again.
Exactly.
Hey, you know,
yeah, the guy delivering
my boyfriend's
the wine,
older, but I don't get ID'd.
the guy delivering the wine the other day was like, "Can I see your ID?" He was like really skeptical that like that was for me. And then I handed him my ID, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm 28, huh?"
Where were we? Where someone did that to both of us, and they're like, "Oh god," with your sister. I feel like they ID'd both of us, but not your sister. And we were like, "That's cool."
Yeah, and then my sister did the like, "Oh wow, that's so nice. You get ID'd still." It's just like, no, it's not.
No, it's annoying.
Fuck.
Yeah. One time you were taking me on a date, and we were going to see a rated R movie, and they ID'd you.
Got ID'd.
You were what, 24, 25?
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
right before
like,
we moved out of Santa Barbara.
I've been seeing rated R movies since I was 15.
I know, that's why they ID'd you. They're like, this one looks like he's sneaking in.
We got your picture.
But yeah.
You look the same.
So, they broke out. They go to get food in the dining like place. Veronica runs into them. She's like, "Hi, honey, did you break out from jail?" And he's like, "Yes, I did."
Yep. Yeah. Logan was great. He's just like, "Everybody, this is my girl. You know her from the picture up in my cell."
And he's like, "Yeah, I share it sometimes with my friend Horshack. I hope you don't mind." She's like, of course, sharing is caring. Like, pass me around.
Fantastic.
It's great. It's just, I love Logan. I love his banter. I love the character they turned him into. I just hate the fact that like they created him out of like this really shitty character. You know what I mean? Like it's just, he's the only character with an arc.
Yep.
Like everyone else stays the same and Logan changes.
Yes.
In this essay, I will.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pitch this.
Yeah. I've got an article to write. But yeah, so, Veronica's like, "No, I'm going to go sneak into a sorority house, BRB." She goes in, she finds the secret room, she finds the secret door.
I was going to say, as she leaves, Hunter and the rest of the guards come crack him down and be like, "Yeah, we didn't think like we would hear you guys like escaping out a window." It's like, seems like it took you a while because they finished their food.
Well, no, they said you think we wouldn't notice, I think, that you left. Because it was like, because the guards that were supposed to be watching Wallace and the girl fell asleep.
Right.
The lady, the woman.
Yeah, and then they wrangle them all back up.
Yeah, they wrangle their cats and they take them back to jail. Which, you know, if you haven't already, maybe consider adopting a shelter pet.
Yeah, there you go. A black cat.
A black cat. We have another podcast. I talked about that. It's called But Really, though. You can go find it wherever you found this podcast.
Yeah.
And so then Veronica sneaks into the mystery room and it's pot. Just a bunch of pot.
Marijuana.
Just growing pot.
Yeah, it seemed like they had like a couple plants.
Yeah, and so then Veronica takes photos. She tells the newspaper. The newspaper's like, we're going to get him for real.
Yeah. They're like, hell yeah. And Veronica's like, but they're nice.
Yeah, she's like, they're really nice.
And it's like, reports, Veronica. 4 reports, Veronica. We're taken down.
And then she's like, so then the sorority president girl finds her and she's like, Veronica, we saw you sneak into Karen's secret room. Like, what? She's like, why were you doing that? And Veronica's like, hey, I was doing this because I was on the newspaper and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, Karen uses that because she had cancer. She got really sick from the chemo, and that's why we got her the dog bed. So at least when she like laid in front of the toilet, she felt better and had something soft to lay on her. Like, and then so she grows
really nice.
pot because a botany professor gave her the seeds and they told her it would make her feel better. And
Professor
it does.
Sprout.
Professor Sprout?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know they went to Hogwarts.
They don't. She's sometimes like, she's an adjunct professor at Hearst.
Really interesting.
Uh-huh.
Huh. And so then she's like, not only will Karen like, you know, feel sick, but she'll lose her insurance if this comes out. And so Veronica's like, oh God, we want to
not do that.
We want to not have this article go out. And then the sorority girl's like, yeah, and you know what, like the worst part is like, we voted you in, we wanted you to be one of us.
Yeah.
And she calls the newspaper and they're like, too late, we're printing it anyway. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're taking them down, Veronica. Greater good. Bye-bye.
And so then it's really sad because, I mean, obviously that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Veronica, it's like, hey, you guys need to get rid of your pot plants because this article is coming out.
Yep. Yeah, she stops by the house.
So then we cut over to Mac and Parker. And Mac is like, hey, Parker, don't go. We could still have fun together.
The olive branch.
I promise to have your back going forward because, like, I also have been really fucked over by men.
Yes, and
let me tell you about my trauma.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. I have been feeling weird about your trauma and not knowing how to deal with it because I also have my trauma, and this world's fucking awful.
Yeah, and I got my trauma by not being promiscuous, and you got your trauma and you were promiscuous, and I judged you because I am not promiscuous and you are promiscuous, and I perceive that as a bad thing when really you're just owning your own body.
Uh-huh.
And therefore, it's, you know...
and it seems like the house you grew up in is really restrictive, and now finally you're away.
And you're free.
Uh-huh. And this is a really bad situation, but we're going to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
In so many words.
Yes, it's in very few words. So then we cut back over to the Mars household.
Let's catch up on the prison experiment. So we've glossed over a little bit. So we'll go back. So Horseshack finally caves after being harassed and having to pee, like not being able to pee again. It tells him the address. So guards are like, fuck yeah, we won. They call their sociology professor. And it's like, here's what it is. Ba, 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 ba. And he's like, congratulations, you extracted false information. You have 10 hours left or something like that. And it's like, yeah, 10 hours. It's like, we'll see you then. So then they go back and Hunter is like, I know this was you, to Logan, and then like takes Horseshack somewhere else again. Time passes. They finally get to what they think is the end of the experiment. And they go, yes, the sociology professor is there, coming back. And it's like, yay, we finally did it. Like, guards are like, damn, you won. So the one prisoner goes and runs over to his girlfriend. It's like, yes. And it's like, you know what the address was? It was blah, blah, blah. And Logan's like, no. And the guards had tricked them, pretended they were asleep, and forwarded the clock by 5 minutes. So
15, I think.
Oh, 15 minutes? Okay. So it made it seem like the experiment was already over, but it was still going.
But they didn't tell Hunter because the guards that did it needed him to, continue being an asshole because if he didn't play his part well, then,
Yeah, he wouldn't be good at subterfuge.
How would you know? So Wallace and Logan had a little bet running on which side would win because they had been split, and obviously Wallace won. So now Logan has to do a nudie. But we'll get to that in a bit. So Keith, we're at home, we're sitting at our table, we're doing our homework. Keith walks out of his bedroom and goes, sup. Veronica is like, I will not acknowledge that. And then Keith leaves really quick. He goes to do something and you're like, what the fuck is he doing in this weird building? And then you find out that he has a very expensive painting, and it is the painting that we had seen with the blood on the glass in the house. And we find out that in a flashback, Kendall had not brought money to show him to get him to do things. She had turned the money into a painting. Like she'd bought a very expensive, valuable painting because then when those weirdos tried to steal her money, she, would have the painting because it's not money and they wouldn't be able to tell because they're dumb.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to get it.
So he donates the painting to an art museum and asks them to donate all of the money from it to like a food bank in Kendall's name. Veronica
Good move.
Sits at the table doing her homework. Is like, I feel like shit. I've learned that I can't win, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we cut over to our sociology class. Wallace is like, hey, what's his name? Horshack. He's like, hey, where's like, how are you doing? Like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm taking notes for the guy from Boy Meets World.
Yep.
Because he's sick or whatever. And he's like, oh, but like he was such an asshole to you. And he's like, oh, it's just a game. And I'm like, no. This man is obviously bad.
Yeah, fucking asshole.
Maybe I just have a really high caliber for the people in my life, but I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I am fine with that. I would write the 20-page paper and not partake in this.
Yeah,
and I would write about how this was a failed experiment and they shouldn't have been doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
My 20-page paper would be a manifesto on how stupid I think it is this teacher runs the same experiment every year and lets students torture students.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't even do it in a way where he's like, oh, let's let all women and people of color like imprison white men to like, like try to like flip the switch. It's like, no, let's let some white men keep power. Like, no, we don't need white men to have power.
Yeah, and he does it annually.
Yeah, he does it annually. What are you learning from this? That people are bad? Because we knew that. We got there already.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
And then he's like, hey, where's Logan? And Wallace is like, oh, you'll see. And Logan does a nudie and he runs through with a mask and he salutes at Wallace and then he runs through the room.
Mm-hmm. Wallace is very happy.
And Wallace is very happy. It's always weird to me that like guys are really into other guys doing nudies. I think there's something that needs to be unpacked there.
What do you mean? There's nothing to be unpacked there. It's just men enjoying other men's bodies.
Which is totally fine if that was why they were doing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. No, bro, it's just funny.
I have never done a nudie. You cannot say the same.
Nope. Really messed up my feet running on pavement.
You didn't even wear shoes? Like, wear fucking sandals while you do your nudie.
I should have just worn my like Reeboks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Hindsight, well, I wouldn't do it anyway.
I mean, I guess if you're running naked, there's so many other issues going on, including intoxication.
No, my favorite was, because it was a condition on playing a drinking game, Snappa, was two of my friends, they both skunked, so that means he had to run nudie. And my one friend runs out first and he's covering everything and being like, very gentle run. And then his friend runs out behind him, arms up in the air, the longest stride you ever see. And this isn't like on purpose, like he's trying to strut his stuff. He's literally just trying to run fast. And so he's just got arms up in the air, like pumping, like he's running a fucking like sprint.
That's so funny.
Very funny.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that guys do that I've never quite fathomed or understood.
No, yeah. I mean, you gotta get it.
So then, we cut last scene is Veronica and her article is the front page, and the woman who had been driving the cart, who had been really mean to her, is like, "Good job, sister." And I just had a question because I was like, Veronica took all these photos, but you never saw her type the article. So I was like, who wrote the article?
Yeah, who did this? How would you know? Well, she would only know because her friend is the journalism.
Well, and I think Veronica's name is like on the photos.
That's true. But the person in charge of the paper, she was like, oh yeah, I have friends in
the cart thing.
Yeah, or I think she said take back the night.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there you have it.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a weird one.
It is a weird one.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, we had a lot to unpack though. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you get psychological trauma from Greek life, you might as well use it to fuel your side projects, your passions.
Convincing.
Thank you. It was a lot.
Yes, it does.
They let 18-year-olds sign a contract that like they don't even read because the room's dark.
Yeah.
You sign a book. I don't know what's in the book. I don't know what the book said. Couldn't tell you what the book said.
They don't either because it's in the dark.
Well, I also think that like it probably wouldn't hold up in like a court of law.
Yeah, probably not.
Like, I don't know what would happen if I started spilling sorority secrets, but they're actually not very fucking exciting.
They come and they take your possessions.
Well, you do. So you buy your own pin, like with the Greek letters on it. And when you drop, if you drop, which a vast majority of people that I know have, you're supposed to send it back, but they don't give you your money back. So my pin is not returned to them.
Came and repossessed my car.
Well, I mean, it's a Tiffany's pin. It's a very nice pin. It's probably the nicest piece of jewelry I've ever bought. And it remains not returned. I don't know where it is, but it's not returned. But I paid for it. Like, what are they going to do?
Right. Send their goons.
Yeah. It's not like I'm wearing it. Why would I wear it?
That's true.
But yeah, so just some weird shit that happens in the Greek life system. And if you are in Greek life and you love it, don't hate me. I used to love it too. Yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Can all work out different.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not all necessarily evil. I joined because I liked the idea of like helping girls, and that was what the whole program was. That was our whole philanthropy, was helping girls become strong women, which was fun. But yeah, you could also just like volunteer for the organizations versus like joining a sorority to do it.
That's true.
But yeah, that's all I've got.
Cool. That's it for me.
You ready to plug?
Yeah.
When I'm not ranting about my previous experience in Greek life, you can find me at butreallythough.com. Though is spelled THO. I am a life and career coach. I used to work in HR and I was in Greek life. So really, I've kind of ran the gamut on life experiences as far as I can tell. I mean, what else is there to learn? You hear it all between those.
Exactly.
And I help people find jobs, apply for jobs. I help people figure out what the fuck they want to do with their lives. And I help people try to make their work for them so they're working to live and not living to work, because your job should not be the like most important thing in your life unless that's like truly what inspires you every day. Which is fine. But for most of us, it's not. Most of us just want that money. Mm-hmm. And if you want to hear a little more about my life and career coaching, you can visit my YouTube channel or my Instagram. My YouTube is But Really Though, spelled just like the website. And my Instagram is But Really Though, but it is spelled BTRLYTHO.
Yeah. You can find this podcast on Twitter and Facebook at Mars Rewatch. You can also send us an email at marsrewatch@gmail.com. Excuse me. And you can find me on Twitter at PyleBrenton. That's PYLEBRENTON.
Yep. And you can also find our other podcast, But Really Though.
Oh, God. Yep, thank you.
I kind of dropped it in the middle of the episode. So I was like, let's circle back around on that. It's spelled just like my website, but it's, it's more of just like an educational, talking about whatever the hell we want to talk about. It used to be conspiracy theories.
Fun stories.
Yeah. Spooky Halloween stuff right now.
Yeah. Halloween themed.
You name it, we're glad to talk about it. Send us an email and we'll talk about it. We don't care.
Totally.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, stay toasted, marshmallows.